All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Move, Crush, Count. This is a podcast where we learn how achievers are changing business growth strategies. The Move, Crush, Count podcast specializes in delivering content from experts that are going to help your business grow by interviewing top business leaders so you can discover how you can strike back against a world that is trying to marginalize and commoditize you. So if you desire to differentiate yourself, combat being marginalized, and you want to learn from other successful business leaders, then Move Crush Count is the podcast for you. Today's interview is sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies that are going to help you outsmart your toughest competitors so you don't have to outspend them. The title of today's interview is How to Grow Professionally with More Clarity, Courage, and Confidence. And so, I am excited about this interview. I'm going to introduce Renee here in a second. My name is Scott Joseph. Renee is a life transformation expert. And to me, it is impossible to run a successful business. It's impossible to lead people unless you yourself are set in the right spot, right? And you have the right mindset. So to me, it all starts here. So I'm excited to have you on the program. I think there's a lot of rules of the road that you're going to help us follow and set us straight on. So welcome, Renee Reisch.
Scott, thank you so much for having me. I have got to give a shout out to Jason Hill from Owl, who put us together and put us in touch with each other. This is really a gift. It's a gift that we get to share our voices together and with those who need to hear them.
Well, it's another example of social media, how it brings people together. You and I, before we were both introduced to Jason, you and I did not know each other. Got to talking one night on that app, that audio app, and I'm excited about that app. By the way, I'm trying to get Jason on the program as well, so hopefully that happens. But I want to talk a little bit about you and get the audience introduced to who you are. You're an expert on the subject of life transformation. You're a 4-time #1 best-selling author. You're a business coach. You've agreed to share your knowledge and your experience to help us kind of stay on track in this area. And what I find interesting is because I think a lot of people struggle with this, no matter where they're at in their career. And I can tell you, I've gone through this. You do a good job of helping people find their life's purpose. And if you don't know what that is, it's hard to be passionate about whatever you're doing. I think it's hard to be motivated internally. And I think it can lead to just kind of very mundane, going through the motion type stuff. So I'm excited to talk to you. I'm excited to get all these rules and get your input on all this. So I want to thank you for joining us, especially doing it live. And let's jump right in if that's okay.
It's more than okay. Again, I want to thank you for this opportunity to share our voices on your podcast and to speak to those, as I said, who need to hear them. And it's not about us. It's not about me, and it's not about you. But there are so many people who are hurting right now out there with so much going on in our world. And when you can come together on a show like you have, Scott, it gives us a place to come home to. And home is really in our own selves. But when you get to share your voices together, it makes it, I think, more bearable. And you know that you're not alone in this world.
Yeah. So let's do this. I want the audience to kind of get an idea of what your background and experience is. Especially, I want them to understand how you can relate to where they are right now or whatever they possibly are going through. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, your education, your background? How did you get from where you were to here?
Well, how much time do you have?
We got time.
Okay, thank gosh. Okay, so it's really been a journey, and I'm still on that journey, and I always will be until I get called home to my next assignment. And I believe we all are on that. I come from New Jersey. I always felt like it was the way to go. The track is to go to school, college, and then you go right into the business world. You go to work. My dad did, my brothers did, and I did. And I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in psychology. And I always knew that I loved people and I loved helping people. But where was I going to go with that? What was that, going to look like? Did I want to go for a master's? I didn't at the time. I really didn't feel like I wanted to have more schooling. I am definitely a student of life, and I'm also a teacher in life. And I wanted to get out there and be that vessel. And in 2013, while I was in corporate America, I got really, really sick. And I'm fast forwarding from the work area to another place of work because I was there for 25 years. And I think that's a big piece of this whole journey in serving others. And in 2013, I had this illness that's called viral pharyngitis. And it took away my ability to communicate. And it was so severe that I was quarantined for 4 months. And I really didn't know what I was going to do and how I was going to survive. You go through this kind of trajectory in life and you don't know. You do what you think you're supposed to do. And I didn't know that there was another way. I didn't know about entrepreneurship. I just knew this is what Dad did. This is what my brothers do. This is what people do in life. They go to school, they get a degree, and they go into the workforce. That's what you do. There is no other way. And the way I found another way is because of what happened. And I'm not going to say what happened to me, but what happened for me. Many times in life, we think, we are the victim and things happen to us. And this is why my life is this way and all of those things. And we could buy into that because that is how it appears when things are happening. But the bigger picture is if you can step out of a situation and be more of the observer. And trust me, I was not then. So I'm not playing a holier than thou, and I know better because by no means do I. I was in the crux of the chaos and I was in pain and I wanted to get out of it. And quite frankly, and no joke, I wanted to leave this planet. I wanted to die. The pain was so intense and doctors had no cure for this virus. As I said, it was viral pharyngitis and it took over my vocal cords. Doctors had no cure for it. I didn't know what to do. It affected me mentally, emotionally, and physically. Mentally, because as I said, there was nothing that doctors could do. And I'm like, now what? Right in my head, I'm like, now what? Emotionally, because I wasn't able to be with my loved ones. I was quarantined. And physically, because I had like the multitude of sores that literally riddled my vocal cords. They were all over the place. And I remember I was in urgent care the first time I went and told the doctor that I said, I feel like there's this sore in my throat. And she looked and she goes, there is one. It's in the middle. I said, that's where I feel it. Next day, and I do write about this in the book, it gave birth. It literally, this one sore, it gave birth. Because my best friend, who's now watching over me with my dad from heaven, took me back to urgent care. And then that same doctor happened to be on her shift. And she said, I said, how many are there now? She said, get her to the ER. She never said how many there were. To this day, I have no idea. But that one literally did explode. And I was taken to the ER. And for the next close to 4 months, I was quarantined with no voice and like no way out of this jail cell. But the jail cell was my own body and mind. Because not that I conjured this thing up, I didn't. It was something that took hold of my voice and took hold of my body. And I'm going to say this because hindsight is 2020. With or without the glasses, it's 2020. I truly believe that the physical loss of my voice, Scott, manifested from the metaphoric loss of my voice in my own life. The fear of judgment, the people pleasing, the never feeling like I was enough, the limiting beliefs, the low self-esteem, the low self-worth, or I should say the no self-worth, looking for outside validation for the inner self-worth. I think of it and I refer to it like the Wizard of Oz. If you remember that, I know I just dated myself. If you don't know this show, for any millennials that are watching, Google it. I'm sure it's there. The story goes that, Dorothy was thrust into this land trying to get home back to, Kansas. And in her journey of trying to come back home, she comes across the first character, which is the Scarecrow, looking for a brain. And if you remember that story, he was the smartest one there. Then they come across the Tin Man, looking for a heart. And he had the biggest heart because if you also recall, she had to take that oil can and squirt it all over him because he kept rusting because he cried all the time. Then they came across the cowardly lion who was looking for courage. And I recall him jumping in front of all of the characters to the Wicked Witch of the West, I believe it was, and to defend Dorothy and the other characters there. I think that showed that he had the most courage. And of course, she had Toto, which was the dog, and Toto was by her side. So the moral of this story, why do I bring this up when I'm talking about leadership and corporate America and all of those things? Because each and every one of you out there have within you what you are looking for outside of you, including Dorothy. It wasn't the ruby slippers that she had to click 3 times to find her way back home and say, I want to go home, I want to go home. She always was home whenever she chose to be there. And it's coming home to yourself. Now, with the illness that I had, that was a matter of me being pulled out of life and being silenced and quieted for me to go back into life with a stronger, more compelling voice than I had before. Because all those things I said that I believed were really thoughts that I had, that I wasn't good enough. I was an overachiever. I still do overachieve. But mine was to people please and show how that I am good enough. You're good enough because you believe you are. You've got to believe in yourself and know that you have the power within you to do whatever it is you want. And that fear that stifles us so much that we lose our own self, our own self in that process.
So at the point where, let's just say it's at its peak, were they telling you weren't going to talk again?
Oh, yeah. I remember laying in the ER on this gurney, and I looked up at the doctor, and I said, am I contagious? He said, oh, you're highly contagious. You can't be with the public. I didn't know at that point that I was not going to have a voice. And somebody asked me in another interview I had done, do I remember the last words I spoke? I actually don't. I just know that at one point it was gone. It wasn't like laryngitis where you could whisper and you can, although they tell you not to because you're straining your voice, but I literally had no voice. The cords, my vocal cords were literally covered with sores that were so painful. And I've never swallowed a steak knife and I've never had a razor blade in my throat. But if you can envision what that feels like, that's the intensity of what I was feeling 24/7.
Well, let's first hope that anyone watching or listening isn't eating. All right. And
yeah, we do delay. Yeah. Quick, yeah. Trigger, quick trigger point. Yes.
I do think, and I want to get into kind of how you got through this mentally, because I do agree with you. There's a metaphor here that's really strong. When we go through, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, when you're going through something like that, it's much easier now to look back and see it as a gift versus when you're actually going through it, right?
100%.
We're not usually given things that we can't handle, although at the time, it doesn't feel that way. And what I love about that, and there's all kinds of quotes and phrases out there, especially in the business world. I never fail. I only, I only learn. And yeah. And so, but what I love about that's so much easier said than done. And 2 things. Clearly that's happened for you because you've made it through to the other side stronger and found your life's purpose. But I want to kind of get into the process that you did, because to me, it's one thing to sit there and tell people, I know you're struggling right now, find your life's purpose, and then everything will be great. But there's a process to get to that stage, and you had to go through this times 10. And so let's talk a little bit about the process and some of the steps. And I assume a lot of what you did, you're teaching people to do. I know everybody's different, but they can relate and somehow make it their own, correct?
Absolutely. Yes. I created a blueprint. It's called the Voice Blueprint. And that takes people, to your point, from the journey of finding the voice from vulnerability which you got to be, to empowerment. And the
Hold on
process,
here. Wait, hold up, Renee. Back
yes.
up. We all of a sudden the screen went blank on me. All right, so let's do a rewind to you created a blueprint.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
So it takes the clients through the journey of finding their voice from vulnerability to empowerment. And along the way, you get your voice. There's inspiration and igniting that flame within, and there's courage and confidence building, and then empowerment. And you can't just go to empowerment and say, give me the confidence pill, or what do I have to do? Because you didn't get where you are overnight. And I didn't get where I am overnight either. This has been a process. And I created the voice blueprint because obviously voice is what I resonate with. And I knew others would as well, because you've got to be vulnerable. And that's the toughest piece of finding your voice, is the vulnerability. We're afraid to put ourselves out there. We're that fear of what if. What if? What will people
Go into that a little bit more if you could. Like when you say, in other words, walk us through what happened with you. How did you become more vulnerable, and how did it help you?
Great question. I actually didn't have a choice. And I'm going to tell you why and how can I say I didn't have a choice when we always say,
that's the easiest. Hey, Renee, that's the easiest way to be more vulnerable.
yeah. You're right. I didn't have a choice. I literally didn't. And people say, well, you always have a choice. And I say that to people too. You have choices in life. I actually didn't in this situation. I'm going to explain why. Because I was taken out of my corporate role, because I was so contagious and was told I was not allowed to be with the public, I was quarantined. And I always say this, that I wish I could tell the audience that I went within, I did this inner work, I journaled, I did all this meditation. I literally did none of it. I wasn't spiritual. I can't sit here and tell you I did any of this. I did not. I looked out a window like a hospital window. I was asking, God, source, at wherever you believe, to take me home, because I didn't want to be in my body anymore, because it was too painful to survive it. And when I was told that there was nothing they can do, then what was going to get better? No day was better than the day before. So sometimes when I say you have no choice, I didn't have one, because I was literally taken out of life. I don't wish any of this on, if you had a worst enemy, I wouldn't wish it on a worst enemy. If you even, had anybody in your life like that. But sometimes you need to take yourself out and take a step back and to be the observer, like I said earlier in this interview, of what's going on. Am I happy? Am I happy in my job? Am I happy in my relationship? Am I happy with who I am and who I am putting myself out there every day with what I'm doing and who I am being? And sometimes when you take yourself out and be the observer of what you're doing, you can stop doing and be the person you want to be, so you can become somebody different. You have to sometimes do that. And you don't always know, because you go along the way in life, because this is what I do. I get up in the morning. It's on rote. You're on this autopilot that you do this. I go to work. I come home. I eat dinner. The kids to bed, or the soccer practice, whatever you got to do. It's on this autopilot. But are you truly happy? Now, in my situation, as I said, I didn't have a choice. What I did have a choice is when I was released back into corporate America to go back there. And I did, because I had been doing it. I started in 1993. I was a Christmas hire. Then 1995 was a permanent hire. And then, it was 2013. I wasn't about to leave. I could have, but I was like, this is what I know, right? This is all I've done. It wasn't my only job in life, but it's what I'd been doing for so long. And, it was paying the bills. I was sustaining my lifestyle. I didn't know anything different. I actually, when I was released back into corporate America, I even wrote a chapter called Old Habits Die Hard. And I'm not proud of what I'm about to say, but I'm also being vulnerable, which is the first thing. If I'm teaching and I got to darn well do it. I went back to my old ways. I had made promises to myself. I made promises to God. I made promises to my best friend. I would be better. I would take my breaks on time. I would do things that I knew would keep me healthy and not get me sick again. And I did for such a short time until I stopped and I fell back into the old habits, which never served me. They served me in such a poor way that I got so sick and was pulled out of life, not able to be with my friends, my family, anybody.
So if I'm hearing this right, at some point you start to heal and get better, and you go back into the corporate world with a new lease on life. I'm going to start doing it this way, this way, this way, this way, almost like for millions of people, a New Year's resolution that they only keep for a week or two. All right. And you revert back to the old habits, right?
I did.
So where was the aha moment where you said, this isn't me anymore? I've got to do this.
Well, once again, it wasn't my choice. And I was released from corporate America in 2017. That job of 25 years that I gave blood, sweat, and tears to. I really did. I know people say it all the time. I actually did. In 25 years, I actually did. I shed all of that. I shed blood, I shed sweat, and I shed many tears. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that there had to be something else. I didn't know what that was. And a friend, a gal that I had met, her name is Tamara Hunter, and I'm going to give her that shout out. I was an ambassador for her in Chemo Buddies for Life. And we met and she started taking me to different events. We got to go. She lived in San Diego at the time. I'm in Orange County, California. And all the events were like in the LA area. So she had to pass by I just, Renee, we're going here. We're going there. And I kept going to these different events. I started meeting people and I started putting myself out there. And the more people I met, the more, it was like, these were my people, my tribe. What I want to go back to is something about leadership, because this is about leadership. We have many leaders watching this. And I don't want to pass by that corporate career because it served me quite well in a lot of learning that took place. And some pointers I want to mention is the thing I love most. And I started out by saying that I majored in psychology because I love people. I did then, I still do now, and I always will. And I went into sales because I loved helping people so much. And it was never about the sale. It was about the service I provided. The sale was the end result of the service I gave. And when I became a manager, I passed that along to every single person on my team. I never treated them as a team and said, here's our goal. Let me know when you reach it. Because I had to chunk it down, right, to the goals for each individual person. Because I had 5 different teams before I was released from that corporate job. 5 different teams, multi-million-dollar departments. And I got to know the individuals on each team, what made them tick. What is their family life like? When they came in, I could say, how was the party you went to over the weekend? How's your mom? How's your dad? How's your brother, sister, aunt, uncle, whatever? If somebody was sick, I could actually relate and ask them, not like, let's get to work. Here's your goal. You get a prize when you get it. What is that? I don't want a prize. Keep your prize. I want a connection. And when I did that with my people, I taught them to do it with their people, the customers who entered the building. The first thing is to make a connection, a genuine connection. Ask open-ended questions, not can I help you? How can I help you? What made you come in today? They all involve a conversational answer, not a closed-ended question like yes or no. People don't want to feel inferior, like they need help. They don't want to feel helpless. How can I help you? Lends itself to what can I do for you? How can I serve you?
It's interesting as you're talking about this. We've been fortunate enough to interview a lot of successful business leaders, and a lot of people, when you think business, one of the first things you might think of as something financial related. But when they talk about what gives them the most fulfillment or the most satisfaction in what they do day to day, it's always about the connection with the people they work with or the impact they might have, uh, hopefully with somebody. It's what they take the most pride in. It's what they love most about their job or career. And so I love hearing you say that. I want to ask a question that's got two different halves. So you're going to have to, because it really is going to involve two different activities. I want to know what your single most effective activity was and why. First, when you were trying to because you're going through this and you're trying to recoup your voice. I mean, you could have just given that up and been like, well, but you didn't. You fought through that to where obviously you're speaking now and you're using it as a tool to help inspire. So I want to know what the most effective activity you did to help you get through that phase. But then second, and where I really want to go with this is what's the most effective activity you've used once you left corporate America and you had to start on this career path?
Okay, so the first thing, well, I was asked to, and exercises I was asked to do in strengthening my vocal cords. Let me back up for a moment, though, because I did find out from the doctors that it might be permanent damage. I never thought it was going to be. When they looked at my vocal cords and they saw how inflamed they were and they saw the multitude and magnitude of sores all over them, I never thought that. I just knew that it was a really horrible sore throat, but I didn't know it might be something that could turn into me becoming a mute. I never thought that for a moment until I heard those words. The day that I was sent to a specialist to find out if it was permanent damage and was told that it wasn't. I was going to do everything under the sun and more to get my voice back in working condition. So when I was given exercises by a vocal specialist that I was sent to, her name is Michelle, she is amazing. I was Googling what more can I do other than the homework she gave me to put the pedal to the metal to get this thing working again, because I had work to do. And you can't be or become anyone to anybody until you become someone to yourself.
Yeah.
And I had that work to do, and I had to focus on me, which was really a stretch for me because I was always focused on others, because I felt to gain them liking me and to gain their approval of me, that they needed to like me, and that was a form of love for me. And it sounds kind of pathetic and sad that I felt that way, but I did. Mm-hmm. Because again, I said looking for outside validation for inner self-worth. I had it within me, but I was looking outside of me. And I think many people do that, people pleasing, the fear of judgment. What happens if I put myself out there? What happens if they don't like me? What happens if I say no to you? Then what? Well, then maybe you're not the person that's supposed to be in my life, and move on. And there's going to be, you just made that much more room for people who are. So kudos to you. That's what then what? Yeah, you just cleaned house and you have more room for the people who really appreciate you. So I always want to make sure that is really clear, because we don't do that in our, I say I didn't. I can't speak for anybody. I have a voice. I can certainly speak for myself, but I know others who tend to do that too. So I certainly want to make sure that's clear. The first part of your question was the activity. I had to look at myself in the mirror, Scott. And I don't just mean like I had to, because that was part of the exercise to do. I was looking myself in the mirror and to these exercises to make sure that my vocal cords, my tongue was in a right position, that I was doing things.
Oh, wow.
But there is another, the metaphor of looking at yourself in the mirror. I actually had to take a hard, long look at myself. Who am I? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be? Right. At that point, I wasn't thinking those things, but you have to, at some point, take a hard, long look and ask yourself, am I really happy with myself? Am I happy with the person I'm putting out there? Is this what I want out of life? Or is there more to it? And I'm not giving myself a chance because I think this is the way my life is just going to be. And you have to really ask yourself that, because life is for the living. Life is to be enjoyed and to be shared. Yeah. And you don't want to cut yourself short or stifle or suffocate your own voice, because I did that in my life. No one suffocated me but me. And so many entrepreneurs out there, they do, because they're afraid if they put their voice out there in leadership. If I step up and step in as a leader, what happens? What happens to shine?
Yeah, so many people that are on a team in an organization are afraid to speak up. Maybe they've got a great idea, whether it's a fear of looking foolish, whether it's it could be all kinds of reasons, I guess. But yeah, and the shame of that is there's very few leaders, effective leaders, that have people on their team. They are begging inside for everyone on their team to just take that on and just and speak up like that, aren't they?
They are. I'm going to share some with you, and that was something that I made sure I did in my leadership role. That I stood by my people. When I say I stood by them, not like, oh, I stood by them if they weren't. I literally, physically stood by them on that sales floor. I didn't want to be sitting in the back room. I wanted to be with them on the floor, coaching them, training them, and listening to them. How are they connecting with clients? How are they connecting with customers? Are they making a customer into a client? Or are they saying, bye, have a nice day?
Yeah.
Or let me add you to my client list. Let me make sure I write down all the things that you want in the future, and I can stay connected with you. And I will call you when we have this, that, and the other thing that they may be looking for that maybe they didn't get. Or customer likes A, B, and C. So when we have something that comes in like that, hey, Scott, I'm just giving you a call to let you know this came in. I know last time you got that, you might be interested in this. Or we have this new product out. I know you love this, because you made a connection. It's not a spam kind of call. They know you. They like you. They trust you. That's who people do business with, those they know, like, and trust. The biggest thing is you've got to know, like, and trust yourself before anybody can know, like, and trust you.
That's a great point. So when you're making this transition from, first off, just real quick, what was the time frame difference? You're let go, you're out of the corporate world now. And I'm sure you just didn't say, all right, I'm writing a book right out of the gate. All right. So there had to go. Did you immediately transition, or what was the time frame that you went into more of this business coaching?
Good question. So I was released in 2017, February 2017. My best friend, I'd say, transitioned in 2018 in July. My dad, December of 2018. So it was like boom, boom, boom. Heavy, hard hits. Really heavy, really hard, and really sucker punched. And certainly my next thing wasn't like, let's go write a book. Let's go. I was like, every time I felt like I picked myself up, brushed myself off and was ready, there was something else. And people always say, well, there's always something else. I don't believe that. It happened. I think what it shows is the strength that I had and the resiliency that I had that I didn't know I had. Because when my best friend passed, it was my breath. It was like somebody just literally took the life out of me. Literally. I didn't know what I was going to do. We had spent so much time together and done everything and nothing together. It was the wind in my sail was just taken, and I really didn't know what I was going to do next.
How did you overcome this in transition to becoming where you are today, though? Well, if you had to point to one or two things, what was it?
It was not giving up. There was a bracelet that I found in her drawer after she passed that she used to wear all the time. And don't ask me why I went into her drawers. I really don't know. I would never tell anybody to go into somebody's drawers. I did. Maybe I felt led there. I don't know. And it was on the bottom of her drawer. And I knew she would want me to have it. And it says, it's a leather bracelet. This is never give up. And I used to wear it all the time, but then I was wearing it so much I was wearing it out. But she really was the epitome of never giving up, because she also got knocked down in life. And she stood back up taller and stronger. And I know that you have to do that. If you get knocked down, then you're giving in, you're throwing in the towel and saying it's not worth it. But the fact that you're here, it is worth it.
So what was the moment when all of a sudden you were like, this is my life's purpose. This is what I was meant to do. Where did that happen for you?
It was after I was released from the corporate job, and that was another sucker punch, right? That was my dad, and then it was all like in a blur.
They seem like sucker punches at the time, but so many
They
people, you'd been doing it. You said what, 25 years? Is that right?
I was in corporate for 25 years. In that one job, I was in corporate probably 30, 35 years, but in that one job, that one position, 25. Yeah.
Things that probably used to excite you early on about that job probably became very mundane at some point. Because if it's not your life's purpose, sooner or later that rises to the surface, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is after I was released and I got my gumption out to go back and start interviewing again, you're not going to believe this. Again, I'm going to just tell you what I did. I went back when I started interviewing. I went back to, it was a retail position that I was managing all the multi-million-dollar teams in corporate America. I went back to try to get another position in retail. And you're laughing. You're like, is she for real? Is this girl like, did the blonde sink into her skull? I mean,
well, you're going to retreat. This is a great example because what are you doing there, right? You're retreating to a comfort zone.
Okay, exactly. So let's give me the benefit of the doubt. So I went back to what I knew. What can I do after being released after 25 years? And the reason I was released, the company took a different direction. As I found out, there were many in my position that were being released, but nobody was talking about it because they were all trying to, do the doggy paddle, staying above float, not knowing what was happening to our, peers in the same position. So nobody really knew until it was after the fact, because it was a survival of the fittest. You were like trying to keep what you can get. Anyway, it wasn't meant to be. When I did finally start going out there and listen to this is an interesting plot twist, is that I was applying to these other positions in retail. I figured, Renee, you can sell ice to an Eskimo. You've been doing it for 25 years. I don't care what the marquee says and what company it is. You know this like the back of your hand. You've been number one in the district, the region, the company, and the country in your position, leading people. You can do this no matter what it is. It doesn't matter anymore. You know this. So I started applying. Yeah, because I had done so well, got all these accolades, all these awards. You know what some questions I got were? Why do you want to work here? You could run this place.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I need a job. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Then I'm like, oh my God, here. I'm like, I finally got my confidence, right? That's the C in voice, the confidence and courage to go back out there and go apply again. And this is what I'm getting. Like, why do you want to work here? Look at all the stuff you've accomplished. I'm like, oh my God, I thought this was gonna be like the easiest thing in the world. I'm getting turned down because I did so well. I'm like, that was like, wow. So that was the plot twist. And then you said, what made me write a book? I didn't forget your question. It came to me, literally came to me.
Well, not just write a book. It wasn't, my question's not specifically about why you wrote the book as much as what made you go into becoming a business coach and say, I'm going to control my own thing here and do my own thing. That's where
because I couldn't get hired. I wasn't getting hired. Every place I was going to, they were looking at my background and saying, why do you want this position? Why do you want to be here? I'm like, oh my gosh, like literally company after company that I was walking into, even after I was being referred from family or friends, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Like, so that takes a lot of guts. I think that takes more guts than what I did. So what I did, I was working for businesses when I first started, and I ventured out because, well, first off, I was young, and when you're young, you're much more fearless, and you have virtually no responsibilities when you're young. And so it was much easier for me to sit there and say, I want this. I'm going to go do that. Whereas I think it's much more difficult to do what you did. I think it's much more brave to do, and it takes a lot more, because this whole thing's about finding courage and confidence, right? All right. And clarity. I think it takes a lot more courage to sit there at the stage you were in your life. You've been doing something for 25 years and then say, all right, you try to get back in, you didn't. You said, you know what, I'm just going to start my own. Well, you have responsibilities at this stage. As we get older, our responsibilities increase. They don't decrease, right? So you have all these responsibilities. At this point, you're used to corporate America for 25 years or greater, 30 something years. To me, that takes an incredible amount of courage.
Thank you, Scott. Again, you don't know what you have until you're forced to use it. I was still looking for employment, and I was also going to different events where I was learning. And like I said in my book, I'm always going to be that student of life and that teacher in life, and not a student teacher. There's a difference, the student and the teacher, because I love learning. I do feel the more I learn, the more I can impart, inspire, and impact others in life. So I am like this sponge that I was always wanting to learn and yearning to learn, and taking that knowledge and imparting it upon others to empower them. That's what I did in my corporate role. I learned things and I was coaching and training them. And that's what I do now as an entrepreneur in my life. And this is what I do. It's for the company or one-on-one. I do this.
And I want you to think about what you just said, because when we're faced, maybe there are a lot of people out there listening wanting to do their own thing or kind of weighing, maybe they're in a job they're not exactly excited with, but there's a sphere of making a change, the sphere of unknown. And we always worry. When we worry, it's horrible. I do my best to never worry. That doesn't mean I'm 100% with it. But when I do start to worry, I consciously remind myself, quit worrying. And I tell myself not to do it, because most of the time, whatever I'm worrying about never happens anyways. And if it does, it's never as bad as what I put in my head. And when you worry, you experience the same amount of pain as if it actually happened as bad as you're thinking. So don't do it. But where you said something very interesting here. You were already doing this in the corporate world. You were training, educating, teaching teams, which for you to start this, you have all this, oh my gosh, I've got no clients. I've never done my own thing. But yes, you have. All you have got to do is do exactly what you've been doing and now just charge businesses for it. Right? Where was your big break? Where was the big, I can remember mine. I know the dealer, because back then we were only automotive. And I remember the first dealership that I sold that broke it out for us. And all of a sudden things took off. For you, like, where was your big break that you were like, man, this is going to be great?
So this is interesting. Another interesting question. I actually, while I was looking for employment, I ended up at a place called WHW, called Women Helping Women. And again, I was a student and a teacher. It was a nonprofit. It still is out there. It's still there. And it's in California, in Southern California. And it really was a place to help people find and keep their jobs. So it was for the unemployed as well as underemployed. And again, remember, I was unemployed looking for work. So I didn't get paid for it. I went in there like I brought a briefcase. I had my name badge on. It was like I was getting paid because I showed up every single time I was supposed to show up. I was there. And I ended up getting in front of the class. And I ended up teaching and doing presentations and giving them this. One of the courses I was teaching was called Roadmap to Success. I said, how interesting, because I feel like I'm on that for my own journey.
Yeah. How'd that make you feel to get up and do that?
It took courage and confidence. And I remember when I first started doing it, they said, Renee, don't worry about it. We have the PowerPoint. You just need to show up. And, I said, you know what? I would like that PowerPoint. I want to be prepared as well. I had them send it to me and I wanted to go over it and I wanted to add to it, not just stand up there and go through the presentation, but I wanted to be part of the presentation with them. And it was really a great thing. And I remember one day When I went in there, the gal that was in charge of it, she said, Renee, I want to let you know the two other ladies that normally do the presentation with you aren't going to be joining you today. It's only going to be you. I said, okay. What happened to them? Why won't they be here? Well, we're short staffed and this person called us. We need to pull her from this class to there. This other one is out sick. So you're just going to do it. What am I going to run home and go, I don't want to? Like, what is it, 2 years old? I don't want to. I said, okay. I had done it enough that I knew I could handle it on my own. I loved doing it. I loved the class. It turned out that people were coming to my class every time, because it was like weeks 1 through 4, that people would keep showing up, the students. You know, when the teacher is ready, the student will appear. And when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
I want you to pretend like the entire audience that's either watching or listening. And more will always do so once we release it on the podcast than does live. But I want you to pretend that the every single person in this audience wants more clarity, courage, and confidence so they can really impact their own life and the people around them. All right. What would be the number one rule? What would be the number one rule that you would recommend to those people that they have to follow if they truly want to transform their life?
I would say, first and foremost, believe you can. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to trust yourself. And it is a mindset, and it's a mindset shift. Because if you've done what if you do what you've always done, you get what you've always gotten. That we hear that quote. And it's true. You keep doing the same thing, you're going to get the same results. The definition of insanity. You keep doing it, it's not going to change because you're not changing. And it's not that you physically have to change, but you've got to change and shift your mindset. You know, you've got to believe that you can do something. If you have this fear sitting there.
How were you? Because you had that fear.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
How were you able to make that transition and go from that limiting belief to all of a sudden an empowering belief that says, you know what, I can do this. I'm doing it.
It's by taking the small steps. You know, what can people do out there? Set yourself in, is what I did in corporate America. I gave them goals, right? Give yourself a goal. And I don't mean I want to be doing this. I want to do what he does or she does or that. No. Set it for yourself. Stop scrolling social media and comparing yourself to everybody under the sun because they're just putting their best self out there. You're seeing the end result of look at me now. How about look at me where I was? Because maybe that's where that person is, but they're seeing you at the epitome of your high. How does it make them feel that they can never achieve it? How am I going to be with that person? How am I going to be that millionaire? How am I going to do that? What do they think I am? Well, you don't know where that person's come from. They're just showing you the highlight reel of their life. You've got to start believing in you. And how do you do that? You can say, well, let's just start. Okay, I'll just start. Well, if you don't, where do you start? Think of things, write down things of the things in your life that you have been good at, that you know that you're good at, and start doing more of them. When you see yourself achieving the smaller goals, then stretch it a little bit more and a little bit more. Like somebody that wants to lose weight or build muscle. You don't start at 20 pounds saying, I can lift 20.
Let me see the guns. Let me see the guns. Yeah.
Okay, where are they?
That's
there it is. I do actually have muscle. Yes.
Yeah.
But again, that's not because I started lifting 20 pounds. I'm not a big person. I had to start small, and you're laughing. But it's true. I mean, we're laughing a little, but it's really true in life because you do have to build. The confidence is a muscle, Scott. Confidence. You can't just say, I want to build confidence. What do I have to do? I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do anything. What do I do? It's a muscle. The mindset, it's a muscle. You can't just have it. If we could,
how do you build it? So how do you strengthen that muscle? How do you build it?
By doing, like I said, those little things. Set yourself the small goals. When somebody wants to lose weight, for example, they don't say, I'm going to, if the doctor says you got to lose 20 pounds, all right, you got smoker, doctor, you got to quit smoking. It's killing you. Drinker, got to quit drinking. Got to get off the pills. Got to do this. All right, they built up their whatever they built into that where they're going with whatever they're doing in that, whether alcohol, drugs, your drug of choice, fill in the blank. whatever that is, but it's taking a small step, saying instead of having a pack of cigarettes, you're going to cut down to whatever. And it takes 21 days to change behavior. If you look at 21 days, I can't do that. How about one step? How does a baby start to walk? You don't tell the baby to go run a marathon. Hey kid, go out there. Get out there. You hold by their hands. You hold them. How do you ride a bike? I remember my dad taking me by the training wheels, and then slowly was released, and then one hand, the wheels came off, then the one hand came off, then the other hand. And then I was riding my bike around a cul-de-sac, and I did it. He let me fly. He let me be free because he had me. He had me, and he let me go when he saw that I was safe. My mother has given me wings to fly in my entrepreneurship. People who believe in you, when people around you believe in you, guess what? You start to believe in yourself. My best friend never gave up on me. You've got to surround yourself with those like-hearted souls. I don't say like-minded, because if someone's in a mindset that isn't the right one for you, that isn't a person you need to be around, that is sucking the life out of you, you need to get away. Run, Forrest, run, and don't look back.
Correct. So many people hang on or stay around. So many people do not protect their circle of influence and protect what goes in here, because who you hang around, you become, right?
Yes.
And so you've got to protect what goes into your head. But you said something pretty interesting, and that's continuing to stretch and grow. And it's a cliche to sit there and say, well, if I'm not growing, I'm dying, and all this other stuff, but it is true, because very successful people get comfort zones too.
100% they do. Yes.
And so where you're going with this, it doesn't just apply to the people trying to make it. This applies to people that are extremely successful as well, because what happens is the extremely successful person, and I can speak from experience on this. So, if you get to a point in your life where maybe when you're first starting off in your teens or your 20s, and maybe you reach a level that you didn't think you would, all right? And then all of a sudden, it's easy to sit there and think, well, I never really had any limiting beliefs. I always had empowering ones, because I always wanted this and I wanted to get it, and I didn't have a fear of this and that. But then what happens? There is another level. There are levels. There's always levels that are much higher than wherever you're at.
Absolutely.
And if you're not reaching and dreaming really big and going after and constantly stretching yourself, there's a reason for that. And at some point, if you really take a look at yourself, you sit there and say, wow, I can speak. I went through a phase where I think maybe I was just in a different comfort. It was bigger than the one I started off in, but it's a new one. Right. And now I don't want to lose what I have. Everything's comfortable. People call it getting fat and happy. And there's a danger to that, because when you get fat and happy, you can't go backwards. You can reach it. You can start going to the other comfort zone. And that's exactly right. It's not, and you lose some motivation and stuff like that. And so I think what you're saying here applies to any level that someone's at in business. I love that.
Absolutely, Scott. I agree with that. This is not just for somebody starting out. This is for whatever level you are at. You can always be growing and learning and inspiring. And the more you do, you're up-leveling you. You're also up-leveling the people you come in contact with, because it's an energy. We're all made up of energy. It's a vibration that you put out there. When you're around these people that are at a different level, then you keep up-leveling yourself to be at those levels, and you keep going higher and higher. Yes, who you hang around, you become. You absolutely, that's Stephen Peake, love it. Yes. So you do. And the thing is, you want to always stay true to yourself. I don't want to be you. You don't want to be me, although you might look good with the blonde. I don't know. I touch, but you always want to up level yourself and stay true to yourself in the process. Like I've said, you always want to put your own spin of oil. My mother always says, take what you like from somebody, take the different characteristics you like, the traits, and incorporate it into your own personality. You don't want to be them. You always want to be you and be the authentic you. This is who you are. If you like what somebody else is doing, incorporate it into your own personality and put your own spin of oil, your own twist of it to, out there. But take what you have from you. You always want to do that.
Well, and you had said something earlier about being afraid to put yourself out there, being judged by others, worried about, and take social media. How many people, because let's face it, if you're not active on social media today, it's a much easier way to grow a business, being active on social media and forming relationships. I can't tell you how many great relationships I've developed over the last just 3 or 4 years, all because of social media. And
wait, how about this one from Owl?
Well, yeah, perfect example, right? And so, but a lot of people don't put themselves out there on social because they're so worried about their friend network and what that friend network is going to think of them. I went through that. I kept thinking, I don't want everybody thinking I'm, and then finally I just said, to heck with this. I can't afford not to do it.
There you go. Exactly. Same. It's like, what will they think? Oh, this one's going to see it. Oh, this one's going to see it. Oh, what are they going to say if I do this?
Right.
Okay. When these people are no longer around, and we think people's eyes are on us, I'm going to tell you, more than they really are. They're taking care of their own life. Maybe they're poking. That's the other thing, right? Like everyone's obsessed with me. Everyone's obsessed with you. It's nice that they care enough. That's great. They need to be focused on what they're doing. If they see something that I'm doing that they like, absolutely, I love them. Come on over, let's talk for sure. That's why I'm out here. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing for sure. Yeah. But you want to, the fear is what I'm talking about. Why people are afraid to put themselves out there is that fear of what will people think. Okay, maybe for a minute, how many stars have fallen and they've risen above again, on social media, that this happened or that happened. And then, you go back to your own life and it's the thing of the past already, and you move on to the next thing. And then they rise again like the phoenix. So you just really always keep, empowering yourself and put yourself out there. And if one way doesn't work, as long as you're not hurting anybody in the process and you're out there to do good,
right, then
where is the harm there? I don't understand. What is the harm? Did you do anything harmful to somebody? Did you hurt somebody vindictively? Did you have some sort of vicious mindset? No. Well, you're here to empower, to impart, to share, to give.
You have no idea when you do things like that, because that's another example of expanding a comfort zone, right? So, you expand that, you start doing things and you realize, oh, that wasn't, and now you might even have fun in the process. You might learn a lot of different things. I'm using the social media. I mean, I have enough courage now to get up on, and I do karaoke, and I would have never done that 3 or 4 years ago.
Well, I'm not going there with this. My voice is, but I'm a speaker.
And I'm one half of the Tone Rangers. And so I am, phenomenal voice that I was keeping from the world. And so, I don't know. I'm joking. I'm actually very bad, but I get up there and I have.
But listen, I want to know that if you didn't tell me.
Hey, let me ask you, what's a mistake that you think creates a lot of stress and anxiety for business leaders? What's a mistake that you see a lot of them make?
The mistake is that they're not trusting themselves. They're not voicing what they feel. So unless you're the CEO of your company, if you're in a corporate position, don't be afraid. And you said earlier on to put your thoughts out there to your superior. I was thinking that if we did A, B, and C with this idea, it actually might give us more bandwidth to open up and do this, that, and the other thing. If we did this with our associates, incorporate it, come up with a solution. Instead of saying, I don't like something, have a solution. If you're going to go to your leader and say, I'm not really on board with what we're doing. I don't really believe in this. I think it's a bunch of malarkey. Not that somebody's going to say that, but if they're thinking that in their head, come up with a solution. If you're feeling that in your head, come up with a solution. Say, Mr. or Miss, so however you address that person. I was thinking about what, the direction the company has just taken. And I was wondering what you thought of this idea.
Yeah. What would happen if?
What happens if? And guess what? Maybe those people didn't think of it. And the fact that you're saying it, they're like, you know what? That's brilliant. I like, and even if they didn't do it, the fact that you as a leader in that is even going there to step out into, out of your comfort zone and putting
I don't care if someone comes up with, Scott, what if we tried this? What if we did this? And they shoot me with 100 ideas. And let's say they're all horrible. I could care less, because you know what? It tells me a lot about this person in the sense that they love what they do, and they love the company, and it's the type of behavior, and it's the type of, to me, it's the type of person you want on your team. More importantly, some ideas, there's always a percentage that turn out to be good. And how many times do you come up with an idea and maybe that one wasn't taken, but what it did is it made someone think, and all of a sudden that idea turned and it evolved into something that could have been great, which would have never happened without the original thought.
Absolutely. And the other thing I would like to add to it, if I may, is that it's also showing a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset.
Correct. Yes. And that's what every leader, every business owner, they want to be surrounded. It's a great way to say it. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. That's a perfect way to say it.
Thank you. It really makes a big difference. And I would look more highly upon that person, as you said, than what they're saying, because that person is somebody I want to keep on my team, because this person has ideas. This person is a creative. This person likes to think outside the box. And I might now run past it. Hey, Scott, I just want to run something by you. And then you're thinking and feeling, how cool is that? My boss never ran anything by me. But the fact that you stepped in, had that growth mindset, wasn't waiting for someone to tell you what to do, but then had some ideas on how we should do something or how we could do something and how that could expand the company. I'm thinking, I got this person on my team who's really excuse the language, a kick-ass kind of, all in. Yeah. And they really, I'm going to start giving them some more responsibility. I'm going to start inviting them into some of our meetings. I'm going to start, and then now you're building that leader into a bigger leader. Maybe that person is going to have their own store. Maybe that person is going to go on to, you're building and growing more leaders from under you, because you are the leader. You want to always be growing your people.
Yeah, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones, he's quoted as saying something, and I'll butcher this quote, but I'll get to the point. He was being criticized because I think at one point he had a head coach that had a few different responsibilities, and everyone was questioning if that was the best way to go about it. The crowd always wants to throw people at the problem, right? Jerry, you can't argue his level of success in business. I mean, it's off the charts. So very few people have accomplished what he's accomplished. So he clearly knows what he's doing. And, he goes, in most successful organizations, there are always a few people that wear many hats, because those are the ones you rely on most to get things done.
Mm-hmm. I mean, true. But it's not up to them to do it. You rely on them. But are you the leader too? You don't want to rely on people. You want them to start turning to you, say, hey, Renee, what do you think of this? Hey, Renee, what do you think of that? Or, it's like, I want your opinion, because your opinion matters. I value your opinion. I'd like to get your take on this. We're thinking of doing this. It really makes a big difference, because you are growing leaders. Your company is growing because you as a leader are taking that responsibility to step up and help them. You don't want to just be where you are all the time. You want to grow as a leader. You want up level, and then who's going to replace you? You got to train them and coach them. You always want to be growing people, and you want to grow yourself. So always be learning, always be learning. And that's a great thing to do, because you want to up level where you're at. You want to go to the next space in your company, or maybe even if you decide to do something different, you now have the tools in which to pull from to do that. I want to share a quote that somebody who recently had purchased my book said that she liked this the best.
This is perfect, because I have two more questions, and this is going to address the last one. So I'll go backwards after this to the other one. So go ahead.
Great. Okay. It's chapter 11. This is there's 11 chapters in the book, so it's a really good quote. It says you gain. I'm a quote gal. I now come up with my own quotes, but in this book, I actually took quotes from great people here, and it says you gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing you think you cannot do. And that is by Eleanor Roosevelt.
Yeah.
And this interview today, this conversation today, is about courage and confidence and clarity. And to gain the clarity, you've got to get the courage and the confidence to sit down, write those things out that you love to do, look at where you are, see where you want to go, and then take steps, small steps forward every day in every way to start moving yourself in the direction. Start surrounding yourself with people who are like-hearted. Go to LinkedIn, look them up. Go, look at your sphere of influence and see who they are.
You said like-hearted, not like-minded.
Yes.
Why?
Because as I mentioned it earlier, but if you really think about it, if I'm putting myself with like-minded people, if I happen to be having one of those days, I hate the air quotes, but I'm doing them, one of those days, and I don't want to have like this session of whining, complaining with somebody that's, oh, good. I'm like, where's that taking me? How is that helping me? If I go with a like-hearted, I know it's a like-hearted soul who has feelings and wants to see the best in others also, but will also bring out the best in me. When sometimes we don't see the best in ourselves, we need to look somebody else in the eyes and have a phone call, have a Zoom call, and get on a call with them, talk to them, and walk through it. We all need those coaches and mentors in our life, and it makes a big difference. Having my best friend there when I didn't even know, what was going on, and I was in so much pain. Having my mom with me now, and my dad watching over both of us, it means so much to have somebody that's really in your corner. My best friend was always in my corner. Reach out, get a coach, get a mentor. It's why I do what I do. I do speaking engagements. I do one-on-one coaching. I did group coaching last summer. I will talk to groups. I am here and available to speak to the organizations about leadership, about getting you to the next level, because you can't get to the next level if they're not in the right mindset to do that. And it's leadership and development.
There we go. And so if people want to read you, if they're watching this, ReneeReisch.com.
Yes.
It's Renee, ReneeReisch.com.
Yeah.
And they can reach you there. And then also, I'm not going to go back to the other question I had, because I love the way you just finished this interview. A very positive note. And my other one, I don't want to say it was a negative question, but it dealt with something that was a negative situation. So I don't want to end there. I want to end on the positive.
Well, you know what, Scott, I could have a way, and I'm sure of turning that around to a different mindset. So
all right, let's do it then.
The audience might be wondering what it was, because I know I'm wondering what it was. So let's have it, and let's talk about it. We're still going to end positive, because this has been a great show. So we're gonna make sure it ends positive. I'll make sure of it.
Thank you. What is the
I'll
thing?
reel this back. I'll take it home.
What is the thing that most people refuse to face? Just bury their head in the sand, try to ignore, and hope it just goes away.
Themselves.
How do you mean?
Because we don't often want to see the things that are holding us back. We don't want to face those things, those demons, those fears, because then it means it's telling us that there's something calling us we've got to take care of. And I don't have time for, but the thing is, what I've realized is that those things keep rearing their ugly head in one way or another until we do address it. Maybe it's not in this relationship, but it's going to come out in that relationship. Maybe it's not in this interaction, but it'll come out in that interaction. It keeps coming up. And it's like, maybe it's in a little different way, but it's still there. I'm like, oh my God, there it is again. Oh my God, I kept pushing it aside. But the more you squash things down, I study this. There's suppressed emotions, repressed emotions. We push things down because we don't want to deal with them. But that's where whether
And
it's
this,
drugs or alcohol or food or whatever that drug of choice is that you squash down because you're suppressing it and you're not
and
wanting
this
to
is where
deal with it.
this is what you're meaning by becoming more vulnerable and not doing that.
Yeah,
Correct. And
absolutely correct.
it's so funny because not funny, but this
Ironic.
reminds me. Well, when you said earlier, I took a long, hard look at myself in the mirror, and you were talking about it literally, but also metaphorically. Um, it reminds me of an interview we did with Anthony Trucks, um, who said that was his turning point. He goes, one day I came home and I just took a long, hard look in the mirror at who I was, and it was not who I wanted to be or who I knew I should be. And it's so funny because as I interview people, I love when there are repetitive things because
Mm,
success leaves clues, right? We've all
yes.
heard that success leaves clues. And when you hear something over and over again, you need to pay attention to that
hmm Absolutely. Yes. True.
because there's something there. Um, and so I appreciate that answer. In everything that you've done here. I thought this was a great interview. And I was excited coming in, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm sure everyone watching or listening, depending on how they're getting the information, gained a lot of good insights. To me, it's not easy to have clarity on what you really want to do. There are a lot of people starting out that don't have a clear vision of what they really want to be or do in their life. There are people that have been doing things like you did for 25 years. You thought you were just going through the motions, but you have clarity now and you develop that courage and that confidence to go get what you want, right? And you've got a new book out, by the way,
Yes.
right?
I this
All right,
so
so let's
this Yeah, thank you. So this is it came out actually February 3rd, 2020 is when it was launched. It's called
yeah.
Finding Your Voice, Unlock Your Chains, and Unleash Your Greatness. That, by the way, is not a Photoshop. That is literally me. I gave my cell phone to a stranger who happened to be an intuitive on the beach in Newport Beach, California. And that wave literally did crash right behind me. Thankfully, it did not crash on top of me as that picture was being snapped with my cell phone. And on Wednesday, just a week, not even a week ago. So today is Tuesday. We go tomorrow. I launched my audio version of Finding
Oh,
Your
congrats.
Voice, Unlock Your Chains, Unleash Your Greatness. So I have the link. The link is actually on the link tree, and you have a free first chapter on there. So click the link tree. It's on my Instagram profile. Go to
Yep.
Instagram, click on that link tree.
What is
The
your Instagram name?
It's
How,
at Reisch Renee. So at Reisch Reisch Renee. And yeah,
I'm
you
a
will
two-finger typer.
see if you can find that
I've got it.
um,
So
on
it's
Instagram.
just at Reisch Renee.
Yeah, on Instagram, yes. So I want it, unless you go Instagram.com/Reisch
There you go.
Renee, you could do that too.
And
On
so what you're saying is with this link tree, if you go to on Instagram, if you go to at Rice Renee,
Yes.
if you'll click the link in her bio and it can take you right to all this.
Yeah, absolutely. It will absolutely do
Yep.
that. So it's there. It's there for you. The
Yep.
link tree is there, and then everything is there. So as soon as you click on it, you will see it all. And I'm just grateful to have it. I'm grateful to be able to share it with everybody. And the audio version, it's so apropos to now be able to say I have it because people receive, as you know, information kinesthetically, which is touching and feeling. They can actually have the paperback, easy read, 83 pages. 11 chapters. And also, I'm going to show you in the book. This is really a big deal. The book is very important to get. If you can get that on Amazon, it's $9.99. Let me see. There you go.
There we go. There we go.
There are 3 to 4 lined pages that I leave in the takeaway section. Why did I do that? This becomes an evergreen tool for you to use in the journey of finding your voice. I pose questions to the reader based on what you just read in each chapter, how it pertains to you and the journey of finding your voice. So now you can look back on these chapters. On July 26, 2022, how did I answer that question? On, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, you could see your own growth and how far you've truly come, because we never give ourselves enough credit to where we've come from, to where we are today. When you look back and you answer that question again, you truly will see. I have a gal that I recently met. She said, Renee, I've got so many books. Yours sits on my nightstand, and I do an exercise every night before bed.
That's awesome.
And I love how far I've truly come. I never gave myself credit. Through your book, I can see my own growth. So that book has been such a wonderful tool. And then the other way, that's kinesthetically and visually, to have, if somebody has a Kindle, they read it on a Kindle, but they won't be able to do the written exercises on the Kindle unless they pull paper out. And then auditorily, now they have my voice coming into their ears. They can hear a story, the story of what I've gone through, relating to them and their story and their journey of their own life.
Well, and I like writing the notes and the stuff in the book, because the more senses I can involve when I'm learning, I tend to retain it better. So if I say it, like a lot of times I'll be talking out loud, writing, I feel like I retain information better that way. Everybody's different, but we have a business bourbon and cigars event that we do, and we provide a workbook. Now, we only do those note things with the lines so we can add more pages to make the workbook look bigger. But I'm joking. I'm joking.
This is because I wanted my audience to be able to track their own journey. That's the big key.
If you look at my books that I read, I love when authors do what you did, because I could never pass my books on to anybody, because I am like, literally, I keep a pencil with every book I read, and it takes me twice as long than the normal person to read, for a couple reasons. One, I probably don't focus. My attention might have a short attention span, but the other is because I'm always stopping and making notes and writing and doing those things. So
I'm a note taker as well, and I do that too. So I like the idea of having that rather than scribbling all over. I actually have questions that you can go back to, and as I said, there's 3 to 4 line pages. You can put the date with the first answer when you did it, and keep adding to it. Really has made such a huge difference, and I'm grateful for that. The other thing I want to make sure I talk about is that I do have the voice blueprint that I created, from the vulnerability to empowerment. If anybody out there is looking to connect, please make sure you reach out to me. I do offer a 30-minute complimentary call. That's out there for you. If you are looking for somebody for your company to speak, let me know. I'm available for all of these things. This has been a journey that I am proud to have a voice to share with all of you today. And I'm grateful to have my voice back to empower, inspire, and impact the lives I am meant to do so with in this journey, in this life. And I want to say a grateful and gracious thank you, Scott, for having me on your show and being able to share our voices together with your audience. And I just look forward to connecting with people who are listening, because I know my story may be isolated to me, but it is not unique to what has been going on there for others. So please reach out to me.
Yeah, your situation is unique, but
yes,
there are so many people that deal with the same type of struggle. So I really want to thank you very much for coming on and sharing with us. I also want to I have to thank the MCC Nation out there for tuning in. I thought this was an incredible discussion about life transformation and the different rules for success. I really appreciate us getting the chance to know each other. I want you to make sure you follow and subscribe to the Move Crush Count podcast at movecrushcount.com, as well as on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. You can join our groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. And Renee, please join those groups, because if we might get some questions in there that you can, answer
absolutely
directly.
Yes, I'd be honored to answer any questions. To connect again, go to my Instagram and click on my link tree. Just schedule your appointment right there, and there's so many things on there for you to get for yourself. But definitely reach out to schedule your appointment. I would love to share our voices together.
And then everyone out there listening or watching, please share the episode. If you got something out of this, please share it, because for one, we don't spend a dime promoting the show. And so all the growth comes from people like several of our people in our audience that recommend the show to either friends or family or colleagues. So please share it. Today's interview was sponsored by J&L Marketing. J&L is a digital and direct marketing agency that delivers results with strategies that help you outsmart your toughest competitors so you don't have to outspend them. I want you to remember this, and I'm going to give you guys something free here. One way to outsmart your competitors is you got to know what they're advertising. More importantly, you have to know which ads that they're running are having the most success, especially against you. Which ones are stealing market share, right? Because you also want to know where your biggest opportunities are, especially online today. So if you're interested in getting all this information and you don't want to spend hours trying to wrangle it all up and make sense of it, and you don't want to spend a lot of money to it, I can get this to you free. I need you to message me on LinkedIn and or Instagram. My Instagram is Scott T. Joseph, at Scott T. Joseph. It'll save you hours of time, a lot of money. You'll receive insights that can deliver the most actionable, tactical, and timely digital marketing tips that you need to move the crowd, crush your competition, and count the money. So I'm Scott Joseph. Thanks for joining us on Move, Crush, Count, and have a great day.